Okay, so there are two spectacular things that happened that I wanted to talk about in this video. Firstly, it's the fact that this news that we're going to be going over came out like an hour before this video, published on the channel yesterday, was uploaded. This makes the entire conversation we had in that video kind of obsolete and kind of outdated because that video was all speculative, you know? It was all insiders saying, hey, maybe there's a Tkachuk trade that could be on the horizon. Yeah, by the way, hello, we're talking about Matthew Tkachuk, Calgary Flames superstar and current RFA heading to arbitration. But there was all the speculation going on in that video saying, hey, maybe there's a trade coming along here. The Calgary Flames themselves elected to file an arbitration, and that's really rare, especially with a player as talented as Matthew Tkachuk. So there's likely going to be a trade, but who really knows? About an hour before that video was published, because yes, I do pre-record a whole bunch of stuff, we had ourselves an article dropping on The Athletic that kind of had everybody pointing their index fingers at the Calgary Flames and laughing because LOL Calgary L once more. Here is the article from Jeremy Rutherford and Haley Salvian on The Athletic from yesterday. Matthew Tkachuk has told the Calgary Flames he will not re-sign long-term. A trade is also likely, according to sources. Now, the amazing thing about this article is that, yes, it's on The Athletic, but this one is actually free to read for everybody. So what we can do is go onto this piece and screenshot things and put it on this video without me feeling bad for leaking paid-for premium content, because even Rutherford on Twitter, he tweeted out the link to the article with the same title there. Matthew Tkachuk tells the Flames he won't re-sign long-term, trade likely from sources. The story is open for everyone to read. Ah, man. I love it. Let's go over onto the piece and see what exactly the scoop is here on Tkachuk. He has told the Flames he won't be re-signing with the club. Multiple sources have told The Athletic, making a trade of the 24-year-old All-Star forward likely to happen soon. He has not officially asked for a trade, but the fact that the RFA is unwilling to make a long-term commitment to Calgary would be the driving force behind the decision to move him now. And so, yeah, all the stuff that we saw yesterday, the speculation from NHL insiders on different radio shows saying, hey, you know, arbitration filed by the team against a player that is as good as Tkachuk, that is so rare that it kind of feels like they're trying to buy time, that they're trying to go out there and extend the period in which they'll be able to hold on to this player just so they can trade him away and get a significant return, because if there was going to be a proper contract negotiation that was successful, it likely would have been accomplished by now. In addition to making the Flames aware that he won't be re-signing with the organization that picked him at 6, Tkachuk has also supplied the team with a list of other teams with whom he would agree to a long-term contract, according to multiple sources. Tkachuk does have some power over where he might land, given that other teams likely won't want to pay as large of a trade price for him as a rental. One source familiar with Tkachuk's list said that St. Louis, Vegas, Florida, Nashville, and Dallas are options. New Jersey and the Rangers are also among the other teams that have expressed interest in the past. And then the rest of the article just kind of goes over the scoop that we had seen. But yeah, there we go. We read ourselves a piece from The Athletic on the channel, and it was not illegal. So I feel pretty good about that, to be honest. I'd like to see more free Athletic articles, but of course, it's paid for a reason. It's a pretty good journalistic platform, if I do say so myself. But either way, let's talk about Matthew Tkachuk, the Calgary Flames' absolute disaster of an offseason so far, and what any trade with these teams could look like. Firstly, Matthew Tkachuk himself, as we said in yesterday's video, a 100-point scorer, a very good NHL player. He hits, he scores, he playmakes, he does it all, he fights, he gets penalties. I don't think it would be too much of a stretch to say that Matthew Tkachuk is, what is that, like a top 20, top 25 NHLer today? And that's NHLer, so it includes all defensemen, goalies, and forwards. He is one of the best players in the league if you go by that ranking, because, I mean, you don't get 100 points in a season being a bum at the National Hockey League level, right? So the fact that this player went out there and said to Calgary that he's not going to sign a long-term extension, you gotta remember, that in and of itself is not a trade request per se. It's just saying, hey, I'm not going long here. there could be the possibility of a short-term contract if the Calgary Flames really wanted to do that. They wanted to keep him around, say, hey, we lost out on Gaudreau. We need to make sure Tkachuk stays. Here's a 2-year contract worth, I don't know, $12 million AAV because we have some extra savings from letting Gaudreau leave and go to Columbus. Him saying he's not going to re-sign long-term is not saying that he's not going to re-sign at all. It's just definitely not what the Flames wanted to hear. They want to get commitment here. They want to get players that they know want to be there in Calgary. And Matthew himself is just like, nah, fam, sorry, I don't want to play here long-term. It's the old Pierre-Luc Dubois treatment. At least this time, it's not with a player that's projecting his entire future 2 years down the line. I mean, actually, in a way, it kind of is, you know? Tkachuk and Dubois are honestly in somewhat similar situations now that I really think about it, but at least Tkachuk has stuck around with the Flames since getting drafted by them in 2016, but this just really adds on to the other layers of disaster that the Calgary Flames have exhibited the past few months. Ever since winning the Pacific Division, y'all got eliminated by the Oilers in the second round of the playoffs, only for the Oilers to get absolutely manhandled by the Colorado Avalanche. You lose out on your number one superstar, a player that if he stuck around could have been the best Flame of all time in Johnny Gaudreau, and now you're about to lose out on the heart and soul of that line as well? Matthew Tkachuk is a guy that I kind of feel like everything fell into place for him to leave at this time as well. I'd seen a few Flames fans throwing out the idea saying, hey, if you offered him like X million dollars amount of money and you gave him the captaincy right now, if he just doesn't want to stay here, he just doesn't want to stay here. That's it. Calgary's Calgary, man. Come on. Like, would you rather play in Calgary or would you rather play in Vegas? Okay, disregard that question. Bad question, because Vegas sucks when it comes to treating their players. But there are places where the American-born superstar wants to go, and those places are in America. Johnny Gaudreau just did the exact same thing. And so, going over to these teams, I mean, look, let's just review quickly all the teams that were on his apparent list. St. Louis, we talked about them yesterday. Jordan Kyrou is a piece that apparently the Calgary Flames would like to build around should they be able to acquire him, so go ahead and watch yesterday's video if you want to get the scoop about that. The Vegas Golden Knights, I swear to goodness gracious, they're not going to get Tkachuk, dude. And if they do, they're going to have to shell out significant assets because they trade away everybody after 2 or 3 years of being on their team, pretty much. It's kind of funny how much star power they've ended up ditching because they cannot afford to pay them. It's wild. Florida, they're a pretty good team as well. I think that after losing out on Claude Giroux, losing out on Ben Sherratt, Mason Marchment too, there's a pretty significant hit that the Florida Panthers took this offseason. I still think they'll be a great team next year, of course. I mean, it's Florida. But Matthew Tkachuk saying, hey, I want to go to the USA. I want to play in the city of Sunrise because, yeah, that's a pretty great place to live in. It makes sense to me. And, of course, the Florida Panthers, I mean, they've been sort of selling a little bit lately as well. They did the whole thing with Claude Giroux, so the Flyers have a whole bunch of assets from that trade. So I'm not really too sure if they're going to be able to actually garner up the necessary capital to make a trade for Tkachuk. Going over to the Nashville Predators and the Dallas Stars, two central teams as well in that area. Obviously, Nashville has such a great energy in that city, and everybody loves the culture, the country music, etc., etc. But, like, yeah, there's another city that I could understand why players would want to go to rather than stick around in Calgary. And then you have Dallas. We just made a video yesterday talking about how the Dallas stars, Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, have been ridiculed by management once more after the last time that happened, which was like 4 years ago. So maybe they're going to be going out there looking for a splash as well, maybe even after losing John Klingberg, or maybe not because he might stick around now. It's very strange how those entire negotiations are going, but either way, if you traded away Matthew Tkachuk, you're going to get a boatload of assets in return. Young player, prospects, picks, maybe even. The Calgary Flames are going to want to salvage whatever value they can get out of that 2022 playoff run because they just lost a few pretty good pieces. Gaudreau, of course. Tkachuk, you're going to lose out on. Even Erik Goodbranson was signed to a 4x4 deal by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Kind of funny seeing Goodbranson and Gaudreau going to be tearing things up again with a new team in Ohio. Welcome to Cleveland, but either way, talk in the comments your thoughts about Matthew Tkachuk, the idea that he does not want to re-sign long-term, and the idea that a trade is now imminent. Hopefully, the trade does not go down within the 2 points in time wherein I'm talking to this microphone and when the video goes up. tomorrow-ish at 10 a.m. PST, because if there is a trade, then I'm going to have to redo the title and everything and just say, hey, this video was pointless. I actually did that a year ago with the Braden Holtby conversations. We made a video talking about where he's going to go or whether or not he's going to stick around in Vancouver or get traded, and then he got bought out or whatever it was, and I had to title the video pretty funnily. So, talk to the comments your thoughts about Matthew Tkachuk. Flames fans, how do you feel right now? How are you processing this entire offseason in the past few days here? I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj 99, and bye.